with a little bit of, can you see that clear? Can we?
I can adjust it.
Yeah, can we turn this on? So that, yeah.
Yeah.
Only nothing, huh?
Yeah.
That's very strange.
Oh, huh?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, this is better. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
That works.
Good. Magic touch. All right. Okay, let me start with that. Okay, when I do the introduction, I usually put on my website, my ResearchGate, and my Google Scholar. I think everyone should follow that, and you can, we should go there to the papers, you put your paper on so that you can share your paper. It's very important. Okay. So the outline, I will do a quick overview of the handout, and I'll quickly introduce the idea of wacky web as corpus, and introduce a couple of tools, and then I'll go back to the WordNet and ontology part, and in conclusion, and then I'll show you one page will be the exercise I'll suggest that we do. We're going to have a little bit of time. Overview of the handout, Margie helped us to print that out, but of course it's also available online. There's so much going on, as Hong Yin and Jim mentioned already. It's not possible to cover everything. So I did my best to compile this as Hong Yin is that. So on the list, there are several things. One is online. I'm sorry, this is a typo, I didn't even see it. Online language resources, so anything that you can go online, and I have listed different types. There are at least 20-something of that. So each of them has different purpose, different content. The second one is licensable language resources. I think the computer did the automatic conversion. Yeah. Online language resources, licensable. So as Hong Yin said, I would actually emphasize here now, it's very important that for corpus linguistic, I put it down below, the most important criteria, they should be shareable, replicable, interoperable. So I actually, in a way, I'm going to say something that's different from Hong Yin. I would discourage you to create your own corpus. Because you want to publish, if it's not replicable, it's not comparable, it's not citable, you cannot publish. And think about this. You want a reliable corpus size to get good result. Preferably, it should be at least 10 million. And actually, I have compiled the 1010 corpus that Adam Gigawatt compiled. The gigawatt corpus I compiled 14 million, 10 billion. I'm sorry. So can you do 10 billion or can you do 10 million? No, don't do it. Obviously, if you do a very specific domain, specific topic, you can do that. Something like aging population, spatial population, etc. That can do it. But do a general language one, don't do it. On the other hand, even if you do a specific corpus one, you need a baseline. Right? So if you cannot access this one, you have no paper either. You really need to know how to use the most standard corpus and how to compare. Otherwise, all you do, people say, how do I know whether 5% or 50 is high or low? It's only on your corpus, I don't know. This doesn't mean anything. But that's the basic thing you need to bear in mind. When you criticize corpus saying, actually number doesn't mean anything, that's because you don't have a baseline. So how do you have a baseline? It's very important, right? So you need a shareable baseline, and that's something we need to work together. Right? So on the other hand, there are some resources you cannot access online, but you can buy. So for instance, the gigawatt corpus, 14 billion, you can license with a very small fee. It's all 14 billion words of POS tech by my team. Okay. So that's something you can use very quickly to a baseline. Yeah. And there are other sources, speech ones, there are a lot of them. I think people work on speech, they're very familiar with that. Then I have one section how to cite a corpora. This is very important. Why is Chinese corpus linguistics not as developed? Because people don't cite. You know already that if you don't cite, people don't get credit, then the field don't progress. Right? I can tell you from my experience that I built on Seneca corpus. I have Seneca corpus about 180 citation. You know how much citation Brown corpus of BNC gets? Thousands or tens of thousands. And I know everyone in Taiwan, the graduate student, use Seneca corpus, but they don't cite. Right? So if you don't cite, why do I do corpus? Because you spend more time to do corpus than write a paper. Right? So to make the field develop, you need to cite. Right? So search, use, and cite. And of course, previously when we do this, we were not very keenly aware of this. Later people, BNC is much newer than Seneca corpus. So later people were very, very, very keenly aware of it. Everyone will put on the website, if you use this, like NCOM, they will put on the website, if you use this tool, what do you cite? They have a standard citation for you to use. Right? So for instance, now I start to encourage people to cite my Patrick paper to be the major citation. Right? Okay. And bibliography, I think Paulino did that. We have developed a lot of standard and overview papers on the algorithm. So if you want to learn more, there's quite a few papers you can go into. Right? So as I emphasize again, why corpus linguistics? Shareable, replicable, interoperable. I don't have time to go to the definition, but whenever you do corpus-based study, you need to think about it, whether it's shareable, replicable, or interoperable. Now, if you're not, don't do it. Don't do it, because you spend more time doing your own small corpus and you cannot publish. People say it's not reliable. Actually, you're wasting your time. Right? This is very important. And the field will not advance. We are doing linguistics as a language sciences. Most of the major journals now are moving towards the direction where they want your study to be replicable. Your data must be shared. Right? So that's something where the only way for you to measure impact, you have to have your data shareable. That's very important. So that's why, on one hand, using standard ones is important. On the other hand, using having been prepared for your data to be shared. Okay. Web corpus. I'm sure every one of you will think about this already, right? You say if you have a standard corpus, some are too small. So how can you have a lot of data? Google is always there. Don't laugh at Google. There are a lot of things Google can do for linguistic research. Do you know how to do double quotation? Right? A lot of you do. A lot of you don't. Do a Google search with double quotation. That means literal quotation. If you are doing a linguistic research search on Google, for instance, you were doing syntax. I do this all the time when I sit in the conference, listen to a synthetic paper. Almost every sentence, the speaker said cannot be said. I can find example immediately on Google, using double quotation. Right? So this is why people will be laughing at us. People who are not linguistics, you're doing things actually not empirically provable. Anyone who has high school can prove out you're wrong, and you're writing a paper and publishing it. So at least do that. Let me give you an example. Right? So I did this. Sorry, this, I think okay, this one. Okay, so I lost the page. I did a search on quotation, right? For instance, a lot of people are interested in alphabetic words. So you can do a quotation, the one I did, PK le, right? PK le. Say, if the new word PK is it already incorporated in Chinese language or not, or PK guo. Actually, PK can take subject and object. 我 PK 过 PK 了你。So again, you just do a Google search, you find this example, then you can write a paper because already this is evidence showing that the new word PK actually is incorporated in Chinese language. It can take aspect, it can take subject, it can take object. So you can do that search very easily. Okay. Second one, also Google. Maybe this may not be okay. As familiar, this is called Google Ngram. Right. So okay, Google Ngram. This is the web page. Google.com/Ngram. Let me also rush back. This one I just saw that actually still there. Slow, sorry. But what happens here? This is the viewer is not reading these correctly. Any?
Refresh.
Let me refresh this now. Okay, that's better. All right, here we go. Okay, Google Ngram. Google has data from 1800 to 2000. All the books on Google. So you want to compare all these words, the frequency of usage, anytime, and based on Google. So I did 吃惊、吃亏、吃人、吃水、吃住、吃饭、吃了, right? For instance, you can do anything you want. Do by comma. You can see that 吃饭 is the highest frequency as you expected. You actually let's even though I have a paper telling that actually all these 吃饭 in Corpus is underrepresented. Higher than 吃了 and 吃亏, 吃惊 and 吃人 吃住 and 吃水. Why 吃住 so low? Because actually Corpus would be underrepresented because you will always say 吃贪的处. So it's separated, it's not long. And you can see when is the first example of occurrence, right? For instance, someone will know that recently I'm working on the alphabetic words, 字母词. The first 字母词 is S1. S1 would show up in 1940 on Google. Before that, you will have nothing. So all these things you can see which words started with used at which time. Or is there any frequency change? For instance, you can see if you use 电邮 or whatever, you can see that the frequency 邮件 and the frequency will be different, right? So all these things you can actually, if you have something you want to do immediately, you can do the Google Ngram reader. And if you're doing computational linguistics, there's another big database called Google Bigram. It's done by Linguistic. All the words in Chinese on the web, you calculate bigram statistics, how two words come together. That's already, actually, Linguistic will claim that that's all you need to know about the language of the world, because that's association and distribution. So he already calculated all the bigram and trigrams of all the Chinese in the world, and that you can download that data somewhere. But you need to have a computational skill to do that. But if you don't have it, actually you can do the Google Ngram very easily. Reader. Okay, so the two tools are actually very simple. It's just on Google. You can do a lot of research already. You don't need to know anything. And the beauty of it, so there are two sides of it, is that why linguistic or why Corpus is not as useful sometimes is, and that's exactly what Chomsky said. He could not see that we can process tens of billions of data. And I told you already, 1 million not enough, because think about it. Unique co-occurrence, word times word, 10,000 words times 10,000 words. Already 10,000 times 10,000, already more than 1 million. And that means that you expect 10,000 to 10,000 to occur once. So there's no frequency, no distribution. Really, you need at least 1 billion words for a corpus to see the relation between two words. And that's something previous generation cannot consider. We don't get enough tools. you really, really need that kind, so-called a billion, so that's called 1010. Okay? And then word sketch, Hong already introduced a little bit. Let me show you a little bit more. We have built a version in Taiwan. So actually, if you're in Taiwan, you can actually apply to use it. This is the website, wordsketch.link.sinica.edu. We have, earlier on when I did that, we did not charge it, WordSketch company any money, so we had a special right to use it in Taiwan. So you can still use it, but if you cannot, then I would encourage you to try to use it. So you can see this already, WordSketch. You can see this is, most important is the size of the corpus, 14 billion words. Therefore, for a word like 发票, you have 8,000 examples. 8,000 examples that you have statistics. You have data you can use. You can find rules, right? And then other examples, the window, you can see a lot of them here. You can click any of them. This will give you the whole paragraph. This give you when it come out. So 1991, January 1st, data. Okay. Okay. Right. And so a lot of times you have this continuous feature, elements in the language. You don't have to do it. People want to do dongbu or a sequence, right? Both Sinica Corpus and WordSketch can do it. You can do the keyword search first, then you can do the filtering. You can define what you need on the left or on the right, right? So for instance, this shows example, 不以, right? 不 and 以 doesn't have to come together. If you use the standard corpus, and that's why Hong said, if you're not good enough, then you're missing all the 不 and you don't connect together. But the actual usage of 不. But you can do it by using search 以, then say, okay, within 5 words to the left, I also want 不. It shows up for you, no problem. Both Sinica Corpus and WordSketch has this kind of function. Okay, so this is something that you can use. The beauty of Sketch Engine is that it can extract grammatical information automatically. Again, if you look at tagging, there will be mistake. But if you use this kind of function for it to extract automatically the function, right? So this is from BNC, also 1 billion words. So you can say speak most frequent, most typical object of speak English language, French word, etc. And the most typical modifier, strict, broadly, generate, again, you did nothing. Automatically extracted from corpus. Okay? So this is a very, very powerful tool that we really should use. So this, and then you have a sketch difference. So this is our sketch here in Chinese. You can see that. What is the difference between 警察 and 警方? Right? Very simply to show you that, you see, 警察 is the individual concept, 一个警察, 一名警察, 一批警察. Then 警方 is the collective. So this may be 一次警方活动. Right? So these red ones are highly correlated with 警方. The green ones highly correlated with 警察. Your analysis is done. Most of the English dictionary now actually use Sketch Engine because you don't need to do one word by one word. All the generations of any word, a comparison automatically generated for you. Right? Okay. Well, I spent more time. Okay. Then WordNet and Ontology, we want to mention this is something that's a little bit other language resources. The resource that's most importantly referring to meaning and lexical relations. That's very important when you want to use that. Okay, and these are the most important ones. The Princeton WordNet is the prototype WordNet at Princeton University, done by George Miller and Christian Fernbaum. And then Chinese WordNet built by me. 2 versions. Sorry, this is a little dark. The first one is the original one from Academia Sinica. Since I left Academia Sinica, 谢书凯 at NTU has already started to following up, developing it. So the second one is the expanded version. And then I have also done a bilingual version, so bilingual WordNet linking with ontology, so Chinese and English bilingual. And ontology is the ontology of the characters, also built by myself and my student. And then the sumo ontology, we don't have time to talk about this, but we skip that. So what is important? WordNet ontology is that, think about it, what do you think how is your lexicon organized? Right? Do you think lexicon organized by alphabet? Like a tree, right? There's people who build this tree. So A, AD, ADS, right? Then you build a tree based on the alphabet. That's not how your lexicon organized. Your lexicon organized by association, by meaning. Right? So when you're doing all the kind of studies, you need to know which words are related to which. But the usual dictionary doesn't give you this information. Right? So what are those associated network mental lexicon? POS as a closed class of concept and relations. So linguistic ontology is like this. You have a word keyword, and then you can find out what about the synonyms. You can what about what is the hypernyms. You can what about the hypernyms, and all these metonyms part of relation. All the relations are marked. They are linked. So you know which words are related with which, in what kind of way. And all this actually is given in the WordNet. Okay? So this is an example from WordNet, fish. So what are the hypernyms of fish? Hypernyms, these are different kinds of fish. Each one has definition, each one has a meaning. And what are the other different fishes? And this is mapping to Chinese, Singapore. So all the information that you can find, if you go to Singapore, you can find all the exact information, plus more information on the different senses and the ontological relation. So what are relation there? Many of you are familiar with it. Just antonym, hypernym, horonym, meronym. These are all marked in the WordNet. So if you're not familiar with troponym, actually it's a kind of hypernym, right? So move include hypernym of move is a troponym of walk, run, jog, and then gentles are all kinds of zhu, right? This is the front page of Singapore, and this is the information of it. We have bilingual WordNet. It has also linked to the ontology, a lot of computational work based on ontology. If you're familiar with our work, we also use ontology to define mapping domain, source and target domain of metaphor mapping, for instance, right? And we don't have time, so I will share this information to you. So this is nearly 200,000 entries in Singapore, or 200,000 words, meaning census. Right? And you can do the search here. And you can see that if you find any word in Chinese, you can see whether there's a WordNet in it, or you can see what the definition in several dictionary resources. Okay, and then you can be linked to ontologies. That is, you link to a systematic scientific knowledge of the world. That is non-linguistic knowledge. So this is machine, right? So this is, I forgot which word this is. Then you can see that in the ontology, in the structure of knowledge, where is it? So when you do a lot of comparison, whether something is in the same domain or not, or where you're mapping to Chinese for specific language, this information is all there. All right, and then since there's English WordNet actually built for a long time, there's no one built Chinese WordNet, so we built WordNet from scratch. The most important issue here is that how do you define sense? Because the traditional Chinese dictionary do not care about how sense is defined; they're very intuitive. So we cannot compare the English one. So we have to build from scratch. So this is the information. This is the website. You can do the search. You can do this would be the information inside. You tell this is Zhuji, right? So with the lemma, with the pronunciation of POS, and then corresponding sense set in WordNet. So how do you define what sense is different, the same as the other sense in the other language? The standard now in the world is using so-called sense set number in WordNet. So if this number, you can go to English, Spanish, any language in the world with WordNet, you'll find this word with exact sense. Okay, that's how people link sense to languages now. And WordNet has at least 50 languages now in the world has WordNet. Okay? And then we have a definition, and then from Seneca Corpus example. So you can see that we did, Zhuji has 3 senses, right? So the footprint, sorry, and metaphor is the metaphorical use of the what you left, right? And the third one is ecological use, your ecological footprint, right? So we have footprint as 3 senses. Okay, so past modifications. I think switch back and forth and it's taking a long time, so I want to do that. I'll just try to wrap up. We can look up for sense, you can look up translation, you can look up semantic relation, you can look up ontological domain, knowledge domain. Then for one, you can do dialectical semantic studies, including but not limited to neologism, meaning change, metaphor, synesthesia, and how do you measure the senses. You can use it for experimental design because without WordNet, this is actually George Miller and Christian Fairbaum did WordNet at first one to do for psychological experiments because there's no such good data to show that all the related words. Right? It's easy to do frequency control, but how do you control? Because you think about hospital, you think about doctor. You think of hospital, you think of a patient. You think of a patient, you think of a doctor. But which resource tell you that they are related? And so all these things need to be coming in one resource, right? And then psychology learning, you can do paraphrase related words, learning and word formation rules, etc. Okay, conclusion. I think one thing I want you to take home very importantly is that corpus linguistic actually enable us to do empirical study in an in vivo approach instead of in vitro approach. So if you're familiar with nature, life science, I think Jim or in the last, you want to do something in vivo. You don't want to do something in the lab together, it only in the tube. You want to do the real world, right? How do you do the real world? In language, corpus. You can't just do by your own intuition. That's your own tube. That's not going to convince anyone in the world. If you want to be science, you want really want our study to influential, you need that, right? So that's something that we need to think about. Yes, we are right. There are another constraint, but they are better and better as long as you know which tool to use. There are many things you can do. They're much better now. Then also putting a word sidewise for Joe and myself. We actually have compiled one book, the Ulrich Handbook on Chinese Applied Linguistics, where we say this is in vivo, meaning we want to touch all the topics that in actual language use. Chinese and lying, Chinese and euphemism, Chinese and art, Chinese and convincing Chinese and the Silk Road, Chinese and food. Anything you can do in life, actually, you can talk about language. We have Chinese and gender, Margie's contribution. So that's something we want to show the world that actually don't need to just do grammatical rules. Actually, you can do everything. You can do anything you want to do about life, culture, you can do through language. Okay? So that's coming up later this year. And actually, Utrecht is trying to get a handbook of Chinese corpus linguistics. So that actually hopefully will come up pretty soon too. Okay, and I think that ends my part. I'm sorry, it took a little bit longer. I went through a lot of it very fast, but I'll share this slide with you. In the next session, we're going to have a lot of some exercises. So these are the ones I'm going to give you some example. I think Hong Yin and Zhuo will give you some too. So do a Google Ngram using the alphabetic words, see what happens, right? Or you use all these so-called 动补 and 动宾结构, see how they're different, right? And then you can use the same 动补and 动宾结构you use in Seneca Ball and CWA and Chinese WordNet to see which one can you find, what are the senses there, right? And what knowledge can you use. All right, thank you.
Okay. So we'd like to give you some time to practice.
Yeah.
动手.
Yeah.
Get your hands dirty.
Yeah. Well, not dirty. Busy.
So, 居人刚才提了几个那个大家可以做的，比如说 WordNet 或者是听风语聊库，我这边也有一些，大家来看。大家先看，如果能上网，能不能去那个 Google Linguistic 就是那些已经排好的那些固定的一些用法。